Happy to share, Devil May Cry 3 is now complete, and I can safely say Vergil is the best part of this game, period. Welcome back, classy crew, to another journal as I go through Hey May Cry, trying to play every Devil May, not trying, we'll play every game in the Devil May Cry franchise. I've already played the first game, half the second game, just finished the third one, and I have started the fourth one, which I probably shouldn't have done, because now I really want to talk about the fourth one, because so far it is so good. I'm just going to leave it at that. Like, I've been praising 3 in my last journal. 4 puts 3 to shame from what I've experienced so far, but we're going to save that for the next journal. Let's talk about the wrap up of Devil May Cry 3, which is pretty much the second half of the game that I haven't really gone to experience until now. And the second half really brings a lot more emphasis on this character Vergil, which is not present in the second game, if I recall right, and is not really present in the first game. I know that he is Nilo Angelo, the blobby brother that you see in the first game, but he's really way more fleshed out here, and you get to play as him in the second playthrough. So a lot of good stuff. So last time I was like loving the story because it's all about you go up a tower to fight Vergil, and I was like, okay, I'm all about that. But then soon after I recorded that journal, I found out you have to go all the way back to the bottom to go fight him because they're trying to open the portal to the demon world or something, only to have to go then back up because we fail and they open up the tower again and we have to go back up. So pretty much when I left off last time, I was just about to fight Vergil at the bottom of the tower. This is a version of his fight where he fights you with, I think it's called the Beowulf. Basically, he's punching and kicking you, which is a very different kind of fight than his usual katana type gameplay. In the fight, though, he does go into his kind of devil triggered mode and does pull out the sword. Overall, it was pretty manageable. I am playing on normal, so it's not too hard. I'm playing with the trickster ability, and I'm pretty much sticking to the base sword because I found a way to just comfortably like slash dodge dodge, shoot a little bit to pretty much make my way through the game. And my gameplay style doesn't really change too much through the rest of the game. So that means my style points and everything, I pretty much get a B on every mission. So I'm not a good Devil May Cry player, and I'm okay with that. This game, while way better than Devil May Cry 2, it's still an old game, and I still have I complained about the camera last time. It's even worse this time. Coming back to it after I hadn't played it in 4 or 5 months, the muscle memory was gone. I didn't remember how to play it very well. I didn't remember how to move around like from map to map. So this is a game that you better play through in one sitting. It's like 20 levels. Just do it in not one sitting, but like don't change games when you're playing Devil May Cry 3 because it is hard to get back into. There are some places where you have to traverse levels and like go back to areas, and I just couldn't remember the layouts, and the map wasn't very helpful, and the cameras made everything worse. The game is a step in the right direction, but as someone who didn't play this in the past, no nostalgia goggles, I am definitely seeing the shortcomings of this game. So we make our way back up the tower now that pretty much, we haven't thwarted the villain's plans. What a surprise. And there's a bunch of cool stuff. I did unlock I think it's called the Navan weapon. So all the weapons got unlocked. Beowulf, Navan. Navan is like a guitar, which I can understand is highly technical weapon, very hard to master, and you pretty much play the guitar and have lightning attacks everywhere. Not my style, not fluid enough. Same with Beowulf. I tried Beowulf a bit, but I'm not that kind of user. It's like a heavy slow melee ability. I preferred sticking to the sword, and the last journal I said I really loved the nunchuck way more than the fire ice sword. I forget what they're called. This time I actually really liked the dual swords more than the nunchuck. So different weapons have different playstyles. Other things that kind of sucked about the second half, there's a part where you have to do some 3D platforming. Now I know Devil May Cry is not known for its platforming, so I don't know why they keep putting in there. There's this room with blocks moving, and the blocks are turning, which would be fine if this was like a 3D Mario game. But the fact that it's Devil May Cry with the worst camera ever makes that platforming so hard. Like, if the camera was good, I wouldn't have any problems with it. Other cool stuff though, as you're climbing the tower, there's a whole scene of like Dante gets on a bike and he's like going up the tower and fighting demons. And by the end of it, his whole bike is exploded and all he has is the handlebar. Like, that is pure Devil May Cry energy. I love that like over the top craziness. And it makes me think of, why didn't Capcom get a movie made from this? And I know all of you are like, no, don't give them ideas. But that's, I think, where this could have shined. Like, they do Resident Evil, they do Monster Hunter, and they're terrible. Those just didn't adapt to movies well. But I feel that you could nah, I won't challenge them. You could probably make a bad Devil May Cry movie, but I feel it's a lot more forgiving. Like, the way that you would make a bad Devil May Cry movie is if you tried to make a good Devil May Cry movie, which means if you try to go for a serious tone, serious characters. But if you're just having fun with it and having it be like a campy B-rated film, it could be so good, because that's where the charm of this franchise is. And a movie, I find it just would translate so well to a movie. So it's unfortunate we haven't seen it, or maybe it's fortunate, I'm not sure. So I got to fight Lady, which I found out her name is actually Lady. Later I found out she has a real name, but she discarded it, so we're gonna call her Lady. Lady fight was pretty good, pretty predictable. Once I found out, I died like once or twice to her, and then I realized, okay, this is just a matter of you get a few attacks on her, and then she like barrages you with bullets, dodge, circle around, find her, repeat. Once you figured that out, it was good. Shade was a boss I really enjoyed because I was hitting him, and the first thing you notice is you can't damage him. I'm like, oh, what's the gimmick here? And it's a really cool gimmick because you're in a circular room and you actually have to break the windows fast enough before he can patch them up so that the sun blasts them and then weakens them so that you can attack him, and then you just repeat that. So that kind of fight was very refreshing and very different. I enjoyed that. And soon after, you have to fight like on a chessboard. I don't think it's really a boss fight, but it feels like one, so I'm gonna put it in there. I found that I was fighting like a lot of stone enemies leading up to this boss fight, which was getting a bit annoying. But in this arena where you're actually on a chessboard and you have to fight like all the different chess pieces, that was just really fun. I was like, okay, let's like get rid of all the pawns, let's get rid of all the rooks. Like I was just kind of making my own fun out of it. Then we get to a section where there's like all the bosses, and you have to fight a minimum, I think 3 or 4, or you can fight all of them if you want to like open a slab. So having to fight Cerberus again, oh my god, that was so hard. All of this leads us to the top of the tower again, where pretty much all of the demon power gets brought into Lady's dad, who's kind of the main antagonist pushing things forward in this story, and he's the one who's been sacrificing all his humanity to become like this whole super demon. And kind of the most upsetting anticlimactic fight is, with all this power, he turns into a massive blob. I don't know what they were doing. And then you get to like team up with Vergil at the end, which that was just such a sweet finale to how you finished that fight. It just felt good, and it made me really appreciate this character so much. I really feel, I kind of alluded to it last time, he's the blue to my red, and you see this a lot, I find, in more like anime tropes and stuff. There's always kind of the main character, which is red, and blue for some reason is always secondary. And you see this in Power Rangers to some extent. You see this in a lot of media that comes out of Japan, and I'm sure there's a reason for it. I just never bothered to look into it. But I always feel that the blue character is always more relatable to the audience. Like, yeah, the red character is the main protagonist, usually the main hero, but the blue one has more like depth to it. And I feel Vergil is like that. He's the character that is clearly a villain through unfortunate circumstance, but he's still like cool, badass, and you kind of want to root for him. So being able to team up with him at the end was great. And then that unlocks the final face-off, which is it's you versus Vergil. It's like one-on-one, someone who has all of your skills, who can go toe-to-toe with you. There's no advantages on either side. That was just a nice, clean fight where it's like you both have devil triggers, you both have your own weapon, and it's just go for it. Just fight as you will. He gave me a tough time, but after a while, I eventually got into pretty much the pattern of where to dodge, where to attack, and it was honestly like every other boss. I kind of figured out the formula of Devil May Cry 3, just not to the point where I could get A's and S's for like styling and stuff, but I could get through at least and get the story. Another thing I hadn't realized, and I don't know if this got lost just between me taking too long between games to like figure this out, I hadn't purchased any health or devil trigger upgrades because I didn't realize those upgrades were available in the shop, or maybe I was just focusing on abilities before, but I didn't really have anything to spend my money on anymore. I was like, what are these? And people are like, why didn't you buy those yet? You fool. That's your health. That's your devil. Like, that's where you get more devil triggers. I'm like, oh, okay. So I started investing everything in that. And you'll see, like, from the start of my recent streams to the end, my health significantly went up, as well as I doubled the amount of resources I have for my devil triggers. So afterwards, the story ends. We beat Vergil. Everything goes, we clean up the rest of the demons. Demon world gets closed up. Dante goes back to opening his shop. He cries a little bit, and so that's why he calls his shop Devil May Cry. And then it's like, oh my god, that's what the game is named after. There was a very cool scene during the credits. So you get to pretty much fight demons. If you clear 100, you get the super secret ending. I only cleared 99, unfortunately. I got stuck on the stupid last 100th demon, but I did look up on YouTube what the secret scene is, and I was honestly confused when I saw it. I had to look up like what this meant. So it's Vergil waking up in what I understand is like the demon world, and there's like this 3's kind of thing, who's the prince of demons or something, and he pretty much says like, okay, like this is my final fight, I gotta fight this thing. And from what I understand and from reading the comments, like that's where Vergil dies, and that's where he becomes Nilo Angelo, because this is a prequel to Devil May Cry 1. So when I saw it, I didn't understand it, but after reading the comments, I'm like, oh, that is quite tragic. And so clearly there's lore here that I am not grasping the same way that like a fan of the franchise is. There's just more below the surface, I find, and maybe I should spend more time just trying to absorb the lore. But I feel that's not what the game puts, like it's very subtle in the game. If you want the lore, you have to kind of go reach out for it. I'm kind of playing this at surface level, so I've really gone just mostly the high level lore and the gameplay of the game to some extent. And then finally, when that's all done, you can play the game again as Vergil, which I was curious to try out. I heard it was the exact same levels. Everything's the same. You get an initial cutscene, which is different. So I started the game, and I have to say, I absolutely love his moveset. He plays as you would want. He plays exactly like a badass. Like, you've got three pretty much different ways to play him. You've got the mode where he has his sword sheath. He doesn't run. He just walks and just like pulls out his sword and, you know, pretty much his katana, and just kills things so efficiently. Then you can switch into where he fights with the scabbard and the katana, and then he makes like, it's a little bit more of a fluid playstyle, which I really like. And then there is, instead of having guns, he pretty much summons like these, the like energy knives, and then he just like shoots them, just like Nilo Angelo in the first game. So I made it all the way past Cerberus because I was curious to see, like, you know, I struggled a lot with Cerberus. Let's see how I do with Vergil against him. I died the first time. Second time, I destroyed Cerberus. So yeah, he's very, very OP, and it's just a fun like victory lap through the game. So I didn't do the whole game as Vergil, just enough to get impressions to be able to share with this journal. And that said, you know, I left this game with a really great impression of Vergil. I don't know what happens to the lore, because I know I think he's on the cover art of Devil May Cry 5. I remember seeing him in the promo a lot. So I don't know where Devil May Cry 5 sits or how involved he is in that game. But I'm like, this game pretty much killed him off. So what's going to happen? But yeah, I'm falling more into it. Devil May Cry 3, I think, is really like a good place to start this franchise. Honestly, I would recommend someone, if you're going to start, so far where I'm at, start at 3, then go to 1. Then probably you want to go 4 or 5, and maybe go to 2 if you have some spare time. But we'll see. I'm only halfway through. So the next time I'll be with you will be my thoughts of Devil May Cry 4. So until next time, keep it classy.